On July 4th, 1976, the United States celebrated 200 years since our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence at the Second Continental Congress. Now, a decade earlier, Congress had created the American Revolution Bicentennial Commission, whose whole job it was to decide what was going to happen for this bicentennial. Initially, what they planned to do was a single city exposition. It would probably be in Philadelphia or Boston, and it would be held over a short period of time called Expo 76. Now, this is what happened 100 years earlier in 1876 at the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia. The full name of the event in Philadelphia was International Exhibition of Arts, Manufacturers, and Products of the Soil and Mine. Now, that event was the first World's Fair held in the United States. This was the event where they had the Statue of Liberty's arm and torch on display to try to raise money to build a pedestal to eventually put up the Statue of Liberty. And for 50 cents, you could climb up into the torch. Also at the 1876 exposition, Alexander Graham Bell's telephone was first displayed. And it's where America got their first taste of Heinz ketchup and Hires root beer. The Pennsylvania Railroad also displayed their John Bull steam locomotive. And the Beaver Falls Cutlery Company displayed the largest knife and fork in the world. So, flashing forward to the 1970s, this commission had spent 6.5 years trying to come up with something. Debate was fierce, they were all angry with each other, and then the commission was dissolved. Congress then created the American Revolutionary Bicentennial Administration, which was tasked with creating many local events rather than one single big event. A man named Bruce Blackburn was charged with creating the logo, and he created this. This was first seen on a stamp in 1971. This logo began to build excitement for this 1976 event, and for years people would see this on a flag at their post office or at other government buildings. The logo was put in as many places as possible. Now, Bruce was a well-known logo designer. He had designed the modern NASA logo. Of note, NASA put the logo on their vehicle assembly building, and it remained on the side of that building until 1998. The official bicentennial event started on April 1st, 1975, when the American Freedom Train launched from Wilmington, Delaware. This train went on a 21-month, 25,000-mile trip all around the contiguous 48 United States. The train finished its journey on December 31st, 1976, and by that time, over 7 million Americans had come and visited it, and even more had stood at their train stations just to watch it pass through. The train had these showcase cars where people could stand there and look through these giant windows and see these amazing museum pieces. On the train was a model of a steam locomotive, the Friendship fire engine from George Washington's Fire Company, a 1904 Oldsmobile roundabout, and a lunar rover. The train carried more than 500 museum pieces, including Judy Garland's shoes from The Wizard of Oz, George Washington's copy of the United States Constitution, Joe Frazier's boxing gloves, Martin Luther King's pulpit and religious robes, and replicas of Jesse Owens' Olympic gold medals. Now, there was a lot of commercialism with the bicentennial. McDonald's put out a big map rather than a Big Mac, which showed you where all of the different Americana locations you could visit along the way, and of course stop at some McDonald's. McDonald's also made very patriotic red, white, and blue milkshakes. Here's the calendar McDonald's put out that year with Ronald McDonald crossing the Delaware. It was pretty common for every mascot, every cartoon character to do something for the bicentennial. Here is another calendar. This one shows the Marvel characters. Do you remember when the Incredible Hulk helped George Washington defeat the British at Valley Forge? Here's the Sesame Street 1976 calendar. You can see Ben Franklin going out to fly a kite. And the U.S. presidential seal was replaced by Big Bird. And I gotta say, if we can do anything as a group of nostalgic Americans, we should start a change.org petition to have this formally accepted by Congress. Here's the National Lampoon calendar. Of course, it's very off color. It looks like you're just seeing Mount Rushmore, but take a close look at Abe Lincoln. Burger King had a calendar where they replaced the stars and stripes with the words Bicentennial Coupon Calendar, which is exactly how George Washington would have wanted it. Look up, America, it's Coca-Cola. We also got these bicentennial quarters. Now, I know today we have all different quarters, but when I was a kid, you had two types of quarters. Regular quarters, and then occasionally a bicentennial quarter. So these were very special. Look at this, Walt Disney's Bicentennial Plate. Wait till you hear what they wrote on this. Even though Mickey Mouse didn't arrive on the American scene until little more than 150 years after the American Revolution, he is probably as well known as the brave Minutemen of the years past. He was released in the late 1920s, and since then he's served the causes of peace and liberty well, lifting our spirits in dismal times and acting as an ambassador of goodwill to the world throughout his animated career. Behold the Bicentennial Plate. This was one of those decorative plates you'd hang on your wall. Now, Disney did a lot of celebration, and as part of this, they had a giant parade called America on Parade. I mean, just look at this parade. Look at the giant sandwich coming down the street. Look at these big dolls. I mean, I feel so patriotic. I love these cards. Yogi Bear asserting his loyalty to the United States. Also, he's got Boo Boo sitting on his lap like he's a ventriloquist doll. I don't know what's going on there. Fred Flintstone looks oddly angry. And I'm pretty sure, was Bedrock in the United States? Wasn't it on Pangea or something? 'Tis the Star-Spangled Banner, Barney! And wave it proudly! And I'm gonna go vote for Nixon! We also had Popeye the Sailor Man and Dick Tracy. You know the Archie comic characters? Well, they had their television series for that year's Saturday mornings, and it was called The U.S. of Archie. Campbell's Soup celebrated by putting their weird little swollen face, high blood pressure children on their can with their little bicentennial outfits. You could also get them on a coffee mug. And everybody remembers how Apollo Creed dressed in American flag colors in the movie Rocky. That was because of this bicentennial celebration. You could also get a Pez that would stick out of candy. That's how I want to remember all the presidents. And no party was complete without your bicentennial balloons. It's the spirit of 76. When you pick up your fried chicken, you think of how much you love America. There was a crazy movie that came out around this time. It was a parody of all the disaster films, kind of a parody of the concept of the Titanic, and it's called The Big Bus, and it's about a giant bus driving people across the country. Gigantic, enormous bus, the biggest bus you could have, bigger than you could imagine, a ridiculously large bus, and in this, they have the bicentennial dining car.
Bring in the bicentennial pig.
Ugh. You know, I put braces on a pig once. He had a terrible overbite. Oh, you should see his teeth now. What a handsome pig.
Peter Parker got in on the fun, as did Superman and Dennis the Menace. This is from a restaurant chain that was mostly out in California called Sambo's. The bicentennial was the theme of Super Bowl X. This was then satirized in pop culture. And speaking of magazine covers, we got Dolly Parton as Lady Liberty. Now, we're still quite a few years away from 2076, which will be our tricentennial, but we're just a couple years away from 2026, which is going to be 250 years, and as part of it, they're planning a celebration called The Journey to 250, and that should be great. I love that Centennial exposition. I love reading about how you could go into the arm of the torch and then climb up for 50 cents and look out, and that was raising money so they could eventually put the Statue of Liberty right there on, I guess, Liberty Island. I think that stuff is interesting. I was reading about how the government put the Statue of Liberty on a stamp, but then it turns out it wasn't actually the Statue of Liberty. It was the statue that's in front of that New York-themed casino in Las Vegas. And so the guy who designed that sued the government, and he won. That's a crazy story. I'm going to put that story and everything else about the Statue of Liberty in my video, which will be right up here. Otherwise, YouTube says this is what is best for you. Also, got a second channel now, so if you want more videos, you can go there. And I'll see you next time.